This is a recording of a one-to-one training session that typically happens on Local Giving's Wales programme. Local Giving gives support with online fundraising, and online fundraising basically refers to anything where money is raised digitally for a charitable group. Local Giving specifically focuses on internet fundraising, and it's a huge amount that is given online every year now, just in the UK. A quarter of all donations, 2.4 billion, are given online. So it's really important for groups to tap into. The average online donation is double that of an offline donation, and that's because people put their spare change into a donation bucket, but always round up to the nearest pound, £5 when they're donating online. And the internet is used by every age range now, so kind of whoever a group works with, wherever they're based, is really relevant for them to look at. Online fundraising can help with lots of things. It makes it very easy to thank donors, to keep track of donations coming in, but in particular, it's a really good source of unrestricted income. Every donation that's given through your main donation page is completely flexible. It can be used for any part of your work that you want it to, so it can really go towards core costs as well. In July 2016, Local Giving launched their Wales Development Programme. This was thanks to funding from Big Lottery Wales, and in August 2018, we were then able to offer an additional 100 places on top of the original 250 as well, with thanks to Big Lottery Wales again and also Garfield Weston Foundation. Those 100 free places can basically they allow 100 groups to have a year of free help with Local Giving. So you get a year of free membership, which starts from whenever the group itself signs up. That then gives you access to match funding and gift aid opportunities throughout the year. So every group through Local Giving can access gift aid, whether they're a registered charity or not. That gives you access to 25% extra on every donation. Every pound will become £1.25 for free effectively as well. And then every Wales group will then have the means to raise money through their main page, through monthly donations, through fundraising challenges, through appeals to help raise money for specific things. And the first £200 they raise through any of those pages will automatically be doubled as well. We give every Wales group £200 of match funding. So every £2 donation, for example, will become £4 or £4.50 with gift aid. And that makes it as easy as possible then to start off with online fundraising. As a Local Giving member, you'll then get to take part in the UK-wide match fund and prize opportunities we do throughout the year, where at least 3 times a year you can access extra free money as well and extra benefits. And throughout your year, you can have as much one-to-one training and group training and support on the phone and email as you like. Some groups will very much want a one-to-one training session and then they'll hit the ground running. Other groups will say want a conversation every time they're fundraising for something new. So wherever a particular group stands, we're able to help them as they need. And the criteria for taking part of the programme is very wide. Basically, a group needs to be a not-for-profit, they need to benefit Wales in some way, and they need to have a bank account for us to transfer donations in. So the Wales programme so far has helped groups raise a really good solid amount of money. We've run absolutely loads of training sessions, as you can see there, well over 60 group training sessions for 450 groups in Wales, over 225 one-to-one training sessions, and groups are really seeing the fruits of their labours now as well. Those groups very much cover every county in Wales, so any group signing up is in good company, and they're really finding that they can see the benefits in terms of income and in terms of confidence in raising money online as well. So every group to start with, the first step is always making an online donation page. That can look like this on the left, and it essentially enables you to put information about your group, multiple photos, a breakdown of say what £10 would go towards, and anybody can then click any of the buttons to donate now, any amount they like, or to give monthly as well. Or by clicking the orange Fundraise for Us button, that will take them straight to the page where they can create their online fundraiser challenge as well. Groups can then also make project pages if they like, so everyone has the main page that sums up your work as a whole, but some groups then will feel the need for project pages, either because there's lots of different aspects to their work or quite differing aspects of their work, and so they'd rather have a page for each of those that they can direct people straight to. For example, I've got one group that works with homeless people and one group that works with new mothers as well. So if they're working with both of those at the same time, they're going to want a project page for each of them. They can send people straight to the information that's relevant to them, and they can donate through that page specifically as well. Some groups have project pages, others just have none or one or two. But loads of groups really do look at appeal pages. And appeal pages are different because they're temporary pages. They're only there for a set amount of time. You choose what the set amount of time is. And it's perfect for raising money for a specific need at a specific time for a specific length of time, and putting a specific target against that. So, for example, you might need to raise £1,000 for a project or a piece of equipment, or just to keep your work going for an extra 6 months. Whatever it is, you can play around with it, and you get everything that's raised through the page. It's not one of those where you have to hit the target to be able to get the donations. You just get them coming through on a rolling basis. So it's really simple in that respect as well. If you end up needing an extra week, or you're not quite going to hit your target, you can play around with the parameters, play around with your target and how long you've got to unlock it. You can add videos to appeal pages as well. So it's really good to get, you get so much more across in the video than you can in just text as well. And lots of groups do really well at unlocking the match funding through appeal pages. Essentially, it just varies your ask rather than just asking for donations throughout the year. Sometimes you're plugging very specific things, and it adds a sense of urgency as well to really encourage people to support you at that time. The other type of page that can be made is a fundraiser page. Now, the difference with this one is that absolutely anyone can make it, not just someone within your organisation. So it could be a volunteer, so it's involved, it could be a random member of the public. They can create a fundraiser page that looks like this. They can choose what challenge they're doing, they can choose how much they want to raise over what time, and they can personalise that page with photos and updates along the way as well. Everything they raise there is automatically put through to your bank account. It's really simple in terms of that money getting through to unlock your match funding as well. Every group also has access to a Welsh donation page. So, for example, on your main donation page, there will always be this Welsh flag at the bottom of the screen. If you click that, then all of our buttons, so our buttons saying donate now, will change into Welsh. And that means someone can go through then the entire donation process through the medium of Welsh if that's their choice. So it's worth letting people know that they can click that and then just donate in Welsh. Or actually, you'll see if you click that, it will slightly change the link to your donation page. And so you could say do a Facebook post with a link to your page in Welsh and a link to your page in English. The text that you as a group have entered on your main page will stay in whatever language you've entered it in. So if you need your page to be bilingual the whole way through, the best thing is to write both Welsh and English yourself on the page, and then the individual can choose which, whether they want to donate through Welsh donate buttons or English donate buttons as well to go with that. Any questions around that, please do get in touch because we really want to help you be able to support people to help you bilingually as well. When a local giving group logs into their account, this is what it looks like. So through the My Pages section, that's where they can create project pages, edit their main page, create appeal pages. You can do things like schedule start dates for appeals. You can save drafts that you can show other people. All of that is possible for the My Pages section. Through the My Donations section, which is what is on the screen here, you can see every single donation that has come through the page or what page it's come through. You're also able to see whether gift aid has been added or the donation has been matched. You can see what extra money you're expecting on top of them. It will say processing it's due to them, and then it will change to paid when it's in your bank account as well. Typically, donations will be in your bank account in around 2 weeks later. Gift aid takes us 4 to 6 weeks to get it to you, and match funding, with your £200 match funding, it will be the following month. So say if you're unlocking it in December, you'd receive it in a lump sum in January, whatever it is that you've unlocked at that time. It's really simple in terms of data as well. So any personal data that you've got permission to see will be shown here, and any that you haven't got permission to see won't be shown. So in that sense, if you can see someone's email address, it's because you've got permission to see it. Every donor can choose to be anonymous or share their name or share their full contact details, and whatever it is, it'll be reflected there. So there's no worries then about what you've got permissions for or not. It's all GDPR compliant, and you can also thank donors directly through this as well. So as you can see on the right there, it says message sent alongside each donation. So it will say message originally next to that. And so you can then log in to your local giving account, you can click message, and you can thank donors who've supported you since you last logged in. You can save thank you templates as well, as we'll look at later, so it can be really quick to thank donors. We won't email you for every donation that comes through, but if you've had activity that day, we'll send you one email at the end of the day summing it up. So then say if you're doing an appeal and having lots of donors, it means that you won't be bombarded with emails. And on the left there's a report section as well. So that means that you can see any any detail that you want. So for example, you could download a report of donations from the last month, check them against the bank account or from the recent appeal you did. There's also a report in there called a marketing report. And if you download that, it will download all the contact details as well. So a lot of groups will use that as the start of the donor database. It downloads as an Excel sheet, so it means it's really easy to upload to an existing database. Or if you're a smaller group, that Excel sheet itself could be your donor database and just keep adding to it as you get more local giving donors. The next tab across is My Fundraisers. In that, you can see anyone that's doing a fundraising challenge for you. You can also message them directly through that as well. The My Details section on the far right, that is somewhere where you can edit, say, the name on your donation page, but you can also do something in there called Invite Other Users. And that means that you're able to invite other people from your organization to also have a login to this as well. For example, some groups might have someone to do the thank yous, maybe a volunteer. They might also have a treasurer or a finance person to have access so they can download the reports themselves. Going back across, there's also a section called the My Fundraising Toolkit, and that looks like this. Essentially in there's loads of resources to really help people with fundraising ideas or posters you can edit. There are thank you templates. There's also a whole section on donation buttons. It's really important to add a donation button to websites or to Facebook pages that directly link to the relevant donation page as well. And it means it's really easy then for people to move through your different sites and also for organic donations to come through as well. I've just included in these slides the links for how to add those donation buttons, just so you don't have to leaf through the toolkit as well. Essentially, it's really, really quick and easy to add the Facebook donate button. It can literally take 30 seconds. And then the website, it just depends on your website. But if you need support with that tool, just ask. Local Giving does take a 5% commission on donations, and that is still relevant in the Wales group's first year. That's free as well. We do still take a 5% commission, like lots of other donation platforms. We ourselves are a not-for-profit, so that just goes a very small way towards the benefits that you get. Essentially, the groups that aren't registered charities, you're gaining 25% extra gift aid that you wouldn't normally get. So you're losing 5%, but you're gaining 25%. So it's a no-brainer there, really. And for groups that are registered charities, then we'll always aim to be offering you hundreds, if not thousands of pounds more of match funding throughout the year and prizes that you could unlock as well and can have access to, so that every group can walk away, by far in the positive, let alone all the training and support you're going to be getting throughout the year as well. These are our three main match funds that Local Giving offers throughout the year, or prize campaigns. Local Hero runs every April. Essentially, this is the perfect opportunity to be able to encourage fundraisers. Any fundraiser that has a fundraiser page active during April, it's automatically entered into it. It doesn't matter if their fundraising challenge isn't happening until, say, the following October, or it's already happened. As long as the page itself is active in April, then they'll be entered. And then throughout April, then we'll then award 1 point for every donor that supports the fundraiser, and they're going to be accumulating points. And those points are then going to be listed on a leaderboard so everyone can see where they are on the leaderboard. And the more donors they have to support them, the more points they get. According to where they are on the leaderboard, we'll then decide what prize category they're in. And it means that it's a really good opportunity to encourage fundraisers because they can see where they are. They want to see themselves jump higher. For example, if they're in a £250 prize bracket, they'll want to see themselves get up to a £500 prize bracket. If they can see that there's only 7 more donors they need to have to get there, or they can get a bigger gap between them and the person below them with a few more donors, it means that they really focus on that. Many fundraisers exceed their targets at this time, and it's also really accessible for any group. Because we award points according to how many donors they have, not according to how much is raised, then it means that anyone really can have a go at those top level prizes. It means that a young person who, say, has got 20 people to give them £2 will rank higher than someone who's maybe got a rich friend to give them £500. That means any age, any community can be really stacking up points on that leaderboard as well. The next campaign we run tends to be around June time, and we have changed what this campaign has been for the last couple of years. So the information on this slide actually refers to the campaign in 2018. It was a very different campaign in 2017, but whatever it is, it's always an opportunity for you to, again, unlock some free money, either through match funding or prizes as well. We tend to operate it around Small Charity Week, and we always let groups know as soon as we can in advance of the campaign, ideally a couple of months in advance of the campaign. So every member will receive an email that sums it up, as well as many reminders. And that email then is a prompt to then think about putting some time aside to really let people know about that. But yeah, we always do something in June. And then one of our biggest flagship campaigns happens every autumn. So again, this has changed a couple of times over the last couple of years, but the main foundation of it is it's an opportunity to really encourage monthly support, and it's the best opportunity you ever have throughout the year to encourage that regular giving. Essentially, if someone signs up to give your group a direct debit donation, they sign up during Grow Tenor, then we will double that direct debit donation for 6 months out of the following 12 months. So, for example, say if someone chose to give you £10 a month, you'd be receiving £120 a year from them anyway, but that will jump being £180 because we'll have matched that for half the year, and obviously gift aid as well comes into account as well if that individual donor is eligible. Groups can choose to encourage donations of any sizes, but we will double donations up to £10. So the minimum donation is £2 and the maximum is £10 that will double. If someone chose to give you £10 a month, then £15 a month, then it would just become £25 a month on the times we doubled it, because we could only double that first £10. And during Grow Tenor in 2018, every group had up to £5,000 of match funding that they could unlock. They could keep unlocking that through direct debit until either the time ran out of Grow Tenor or until our overall pot had run out as well. With Grow Tenor, as with any of the other match fund campaigns, there'll be a whole new section that appears in the fundraising toolkit. This section will have loads of resources to promote it. We want to save groups time. We don't want every group wasting time trying to perfectly word how they can make the most of this opportunity. This means that there's email templates in there, there's press release templates, there's posters, there's social media images, absolutely everything that will sum up that campaign. And so you can just spend 1 minute downloading what you want and then sharing it alongside your donation page link. We have lots of groups that sign up specifically to take part in Grow Tenor or other match funds. This is a West Wales group who signed up and they raised over 4.8 grand in their first Grow Tenor. And they still have ongoing direct debits from that. They've done really, really well. They essentially downloaded the email template, they personalized it, and they sent it out to everyone in their network. And having that sense of urgency, literally being able to say to people, it's £5 just sitting there, you can help us make the most of it. It really encourages people to get behind you there and then. Of things to work, you really need to have a strong donation page. This is the structure that we encourage groups to use for that. Essentially, if you can just be really clear on why it is that your group is needed, what it is that you do, what are the outcomes of what you do, and how funding could help with that, then that'll go a really long way. The strongest donation pages also will have a little testimony or quote or case study, an example of someone or something that they've helped as well. Some groups will then be in the fortunate position that they have individuals that they can share this donation page with straight away. Most groups aren't in that position, and we'll look at that next as well. But for example, say you have someone who tends to dip their hand in their pocket for anything that you do. They are the perfect individuals, say, to let know about Grow Tenor, because if they sign up for regular support, then they can unlock loads of benefits for you. Or, for example, if there's someone who tends to volunteer for everything going, maybe they'd be really interested in a fundraising challenge. Most groups, though, won't be in that position and will be very much starting from scratch. If that's the case, we can really help you from whatever position you're in. But as a general starting point, we really encourage groups to look at who their network is. Lots of groups will say immediately that they don't have a network, but that's not true, because we do all have people that interact with our group in some way, be they participants of what we do, family members of people we help, local community. These are really generic ones here, but you'll have more personal ones as well. It's worth thinking about, who do we interact with, who knows something about our work, even if they don't know everything about our work. And then the easy thing to do is to then contact all of those people in one blanket message that asks them to donate to you. But that is not the best thing to do. The best thing is to look at each of those groups and decide what is the most appropriate message for them. Because some of those segments, it is absolutely going to be fine to ask them to donate to you. But other people, maybe they've not got the means to donate to you, but they'd love to do a fundraiser. And others, maybe they're already stretched for time, and so you're just going to be focusing on asking them to spread the word, to share a Facebook post when a match fund's going on, or something like that as well. It's much more effective to do a relevant message to someone rather than a very generic message that is not relevant to them. The more personal you can make those messages, the better. For example, you really know your work, you're really close to your work on the ground as a smaller group. And you can really make it sound like you're one real person asking another real person to support you. And the more stories that you can make it more personal, all the better. With some groups that include personal case studies or things like that as well in their thank you messages. Anything you can to make it more personal is definitely worth doing. It's also really encouraging for groups to offer monthly support throughout the year. If you can be encouraging people to consider direct debits, particularly if there are people that are paying for things already for your group, such as an annual Friends membership or a regular sub to take part in an activity. If you've got anyone paying for anything already, it's worth thinking about, do they translate to a monthly cost? And could you encourage them to support you through a direct debit through local giving instead? And then you're getting that money steadily on a monthly basis, and it can really help you throughout the year to continue doing what you're doing, as well as having access to gift aid if it's eligible, and also potentially unlocking other things as well, such as your Wales £200. A lot of groups will have something like one of their monthly donation examples as a monthly example. So, for example, £10 a month would enable us to do X, Y, and Z. It's also worth making direct debits seem a little bit less scary. So to say that £10 a month is just 33p a day, really stops it being intimidating. And then this is an example message that you could use to encourage monthly support. Feel free to use this template, copy and paste it, or write it down if you want to. But it's really essentially just emphasizing that having that regular monthly support means you're not going to have to turn anyone away, or you're ready for the next opportunity that's going to come around as well. Monthly giving really is the lifeblood of work, and whatever your message, is always worth including on the end. Even if you could just share this message, then it'd make a really big difference, because they could really help you spread the word then. We've got lots of Wales groups who've done really well through direct debits. Those that have done best have probably been able to make it really tangible. So if you can really give people an idea of what their monthly gift is going towards, it'll make a real difference. Some groups it's much easier than others. For example, a food bank knows exactly how much it costs to feed a family of 4 for a month, but lots of other groups can't put such a precise figure on it as that. The other thing that you can do then is to just choose one element of your work that they're going towards and say that it's going towards making this happen. For example, a group that offers boxing classes for children in care might decide that's the most appealing part of their work, even though they do many other aspects as well. And so they might say that, would you like to support us on a monthly basis? It would really help us to subsidise the cost of this. And then, it really enables that to happen, even if the real cost of it is too much to ask one person to give on a monthly basis. They can really give towards that and help it to happen. Then once you've got a donation page that you're really happy with, and you've got your wording right and you've got donation examples there, you need to really be able to promote that page and get the word out about it. We're really lucky that in this day and age we have lots of different communication methods, social media, which we'll look at probably in a second, but it's also newsletters. So 1/3 of online donations are still because of an email. So if you're able to email around a regular update, then that's really worth doing. It doesn't have to be a monthly newsletter if that's too much. It could be every 3 months or even every 6 months. Even if you have no one else to contact, you're going to be building up these local giving donors. So it's worth keeping them in the loop, letting them know what their donations are able to happen or what you're up to next as well. Traditional media as well. We have a whole section on our website around newspapers. So under Wales, there's a whole list of newspapers. Each newspaper's name is then a link. So if you click on it, it takes you directly to part of that newspaper where you can submit an article. And so it means if you've gone to the effort of writing a couple of paragraphs for one newspaper, you can just as easily send it to 10 newspapers at the same time. You're more likely to get it in one. And often there'll be online articles as well. They won't necessarily tell you if they put something in an online article. So in that sense, it's really worth setting up a Google alert for a particular set of words in your article. Often if you've included a quote, say a quote from a volunteer, it's worth doing setting up a Google alert for, say, that name or your name, because then that's going to be more identifiable. If you've no idea what I'm talking about in terms of Google alerts, Google it, or just ask me as well, or get in touch with Local Giving and we can explain how you can set one up. It's really worth scheduling posts on Facebook. So loads of community groups have Facebook pages, even if they don't have websites. But lots of groups don't schedule posts. So if you're writing out a Facebook post as normal, the natural thing to do would be to click a publish button. But actually, there's a drop down arrow, and in that, there's an option to click schedule. You can then choose the date and the time that you want that post to go out. And it works really well then. For example, if you've got an appeal that's running for a month, then you can schedule posts to go out every few days throughout that. Or one of our match fund campaigns, you can have posts going out in the lead up and the start of that as well. So you know the job's done in terms of getting the word out. It saves you time because you're not having to log into Facebook again and again, do more and more posts. An example message that you could use. So for a group signing up, essentially emphasizing, you've got this great new donation page. It's easier than ever to support you. You've got £200 match funding, which means even £2 become £4 or £4.50 with gift aid. And again, including that element of, please could you just share this post as well? That'd be so helpful. So that is there if you want to use it as the basis. Absolutely every social media post should be visual. So it should have a picture or a video attached to it. It's much more likely to be looked at if it's visual. Some groups, it's really easy for them to have photos. Maybe their work is visual, or maybe they haven't got to worry about getting permissions for people or anything like that. Some groups, that's not the case. So, for example, one example would be a counselling group. They're not going to be taking photos of their counselling work. So, in that sense, they might use something like Pexels here, which allows you to download really good quality free images. They might put in something like coffee with a friend, and it would bring up photos then that are relevant to that, and they could use that for their social media. One step further is to use something like Canva. Canva is absolutely brilliant. We ourselves use it at Local Giving. It essentially allows you to make any visual professional resource, and it just looks, really good, and it's really easy to do. You just create an account. It'd be free for most of you to create those accounts, and you can create any visual resource you want. So, for example, instead of me doing a Twitter post saying, "Great, there's 100 groups signed up to the World's Programme," instead, I could knock together an image, and then my text itself is actually the image. So it's worth, when you're doing an appeal, creating an image that sums up that appeal, and then you've got something to share that is always visual as well. It's really easy to create these. You can use Canva's own images, their own text. If there are a couple of you in your organisation that are doing it, then you could say share. You can link your accounts as well. So, for example, in Local Giving, we shared the perfect colour of orange so that we're all on brand, even though we're making our own things. And then you just click download, and that is an image that you can use for whatever you want. Canva also has something called Magic Resize, which is a really good tool which helps you turn whatever you've made into a resource of a completely different size. So, for example, going back to this lower image here is the dimensions of an Instagram post. But at the click of a button, I could turn it into an A4 poster or a Facebook header or absolutely anything there. So it was really good. You can just tick what you want the image to turn into, and then they open in new windows. It saves you load time on marketing, so you can have all these resources then that are matching. You may have to move them around a little bit, but it basically stops them being blurry, stops them being completely something that you have to do from scratch. So it's really worthwhile. Video content as well. Something like this site enables you to be able to find, light-hearted videos to add to your content. Again, you can just put in keywords and it'll bring up whatever's trending most on the internet at the moment. This is a North Wales group who've used video content really well. For one of their appeals, they wanted to essentially send a community band to an event in Cornwall. They then did an appeal for that. So they had a video of the band performing, of the band talking about why it was that it was important for them to go. You can just get so much more across in the video. And they then also did a thank you video that they shared with donors afterwards as well. I just want to talk in more detail about fundraisers. Every group who's got a free year of help is really worth trying fundraisers and trying appeals throughout the year, because some groups will get a better response from one than the other. Fundraisers are just so good because they're really time effective. Essentially, the donor is doing the work for you because they are fundraising, they're doing the challenge, they're asking people to support them, and they are then able to have people support them that wouldn't directly be giving to your group as well. So, for example, someone might be willing to support their loved one, even if they don't know about your group, or they're already supporting the causes that they most care about. And on average, there'll be 16 people that will support a fundraiser that wouldn't have ever directly given to your group. The more people are going to be hearing about your work, and you're getting donations you wouldn't normally get as well. Group fundraisers are also something that are really worth considering, and particularly in Local Hero. Say if there's 5 people gang together, fundraising under one fundraising page they're all sharing, then all of them are going to be getting different donors to those pages, and something like Local Hero, then they're going to be getting the a higher number of donors. It's going to get them a higher number of points. Group fundraisers can really take the pressure off as well. So, for example, if you're working with a group of people who don't want the pressure of hitting a fundraising target, or their life situation means that they don't have a large network, then they could all make a fundraiser to share as well. And it can just go that bit further as well. If someone says to you that they want to do a fundraiser but they're not sure what to do, there's a few different ways that you can encourage them to go. One is that you can encourage them to take part in existing third-party events, things like runs, cycles, all those sorts of things we hear about. These are the websites of some of the big annual ones that happen in Wales. There are also a number of things like zip wires that are worth considering. Zip wires are very often set up so that people in wheelchairs can also use them. So as they're accessible in that way, there's something that really worth considering. This is also a good site that enables you to put in your postcode, and it will tell you anything that's happening nearby as well that you might want to sign up to. The other option is that they may want to just come up with their own fundraising idea. For example, they just may not be interested in physical things at all. Maybe they can't get to them, or maybe they just can't justify the fee. Some of these things cost 30, 40 quid to be able to take part in. So in that case, they might want to come up with their own fundraising idea that's just completely free for them to do. For example, this is a Wales group who won Local Hero with this fundraiser. Someone worked with them on a particular project, decided they wanted to do a fundraiser. They then had their bikes, it was free for them to do, and they chose to cycle around the village halls the group had performed in that year across Wales. They took something they enjoyed, and made it relevant to the group. They had loads of people support them. A lot of them were just £2 donations, and they absolutely smashed Local Hero with that fundraiser. So people can come up with a fundraiser that is the smallest coffee morning ever to the biggest year-long challenge, to something that is just something they enjoy that they're turning into a challenge with a target against it, or even something that they just personally find difficult that they're challenging themselves to do. The other option is that you as a group could come up with a fundraising idea or event or activity that other people could take part in. It's very easy for these sorts of things to take up a week of your life, so it's really important to not do that. Some groups have been clever and have got people to vote on their favourite idea before they've even started. Say you as a group have come up with 3 fundraising ideas, you could get people to really think about what they prefer you to do. That means that then they can vote on it, say on a voting poll on Facebook or an AGM, absolutely anything. And then before you even start, there's people interested in that idea. And then hopefully when you come then to promote it, they'll think that they got behind you and they should, really then get involved because they encourage you to do that. Other groups will go one step further and use a table like this to develop their fundraising ideas. We've had loads of groups that come up with really, really good fundraising ideas that haven't been a burden, that they're really built on something they're already doing. For example, say a group encouraged students to volunteer while studying their degrees. They could then do a fundraiser which is sponsor us to give 500 volunteering hours this autumn. Because the entire output of their work is volunteering hours, that is pretty much something they already do, but they put an impressive target against that. They've highlighted how much they're doing. It might encourage someone to give the extra hour or two as well, and it just means it's a really, really good way of fundraising against their existing work. We've had other groups who have fundraised with things that their volunteers already had to do, for example, decorating a building, or say volunteers are having to clear an area of wasteland for a public park, anything like that. If your volunteers are putting time and energy into something, it might as well also be a fundraising challenge, and then you could get donations against it as well. The other option is that your very work could be something that lends itself to a fundraising challenge. So, for example, we have a group called the Snowdonia Society who did a fundraiser along the lines of walking up and down 3 peaks of Snowdon, which in itself is a big challenge, but they also did a litter pick along the way. As their entire work was to keep Snowdon clean, then that helped them do their work anyway, but they turned it into a challenge as well. There's another group who's gone one step further in using this table. They deliver community dance workshops, and so they worked out the basic facts and behaviours of the group are that they are young, mainly young girls taking part. They are very local. The relationship to the charity is that they don't realise they're a charity, they don't know the workshops need funding, and their motivations are that they love dance and that they love spending time with each other as well. So they then know that their fundraising idea has to incorporate all of those elements. They then chose to do a 24-hour dance-a-thon. Every young person chose a half an hour slot. They then fundraised just against that slot, and that then built up to a good number of donations. Obviously, it wouldn't have been appropriate for them to ask the girls directly to donate, so a fundraising challenge like that worked really well. It was free for them to do because it used the skills and the facilities that they already had, and therefore it's a really healthy group fundraiser as well. Some groups choose to primarily fundraise through fundraisers. So, for example, the Pool Pop and Fund, a Swansea-based group who predominantly have chosen to fundraise through fundraisers. They work with young people, so they've encouraged parents to do challenges to help them raise money. Recovery Cymru have done something really interesting. They have essentially did an idea that could be replicated even if you're just a small group. They worked out that it cost them £300 to be able to give someone a day of help when they really needed it. They help people on the recovery side of addiction. And so they approached all those people and said, did you know it cost us £300 to be able to give you that day of help when you were at crisis point? Would you like to be able to give that day of help to someone else when they really need it? And it then meant they had all these fundraisers for 300 quid that had really personal messages on it of what the group had helped them to do, and they all had a really justifiable reason for raising every single pound of that £300 target. It's really worthwhile bearing that in mind because otherwise fundraisers tend to pluck some random figure out the air. Whereas if you can say that, did you know this amount equates to this for us or this amount equates to this for us, they can put that on their page and they can really justify why they're raising that amount as well. Like I said, you can contact fundraisers through a local giving account, and therefore even if someone's already made their page, you can say, oh, I can see, you've put £250 target there. Did you know that means this for us? Would you like to add that to our page, to your page as well? So you've got fundraisers, but you've also got appeals. And the main question I get asked with appeals is around the target. Groups just aren't sure what's the minimum or maximum amount they should be going for. I usually encourage groups to do a target of no less than 500 quid. Some groups do a smaller one than that, but you really want it to be worth your time. So £500 is a good minimum amount to think about. In terms of the top end, I would say it's never worth doing an appeal for more than £10,000, and I usually encourage groups, at least for the first appeal, to not do any more than £5,000. And the logic behind that is that if I'm someone in your local community who can only ever afford to give you £5, and you've got this huge target, it looks like my £5 is not going to make a single difference. What's the point of me supporting you? It's not going to get you anywhere closer to this huge target. And so you've lost me then before you started. Whereas actually, if you've got a target of say £1,000, then it's really, my £5 is going to make a difference towards that. There's also something called the 30% rule. Basically, if you can raise the first third of your target, then you're likely to get the whole way. And the logic of that is that if I'm someone who's not supported you before, I go onto your appeal page and I can see that actually you've only raised £5 towards the £1,000 target, then I'm not going to be actually very encouraged that you're going to get the whole way. And so in that respect, you've done the hard work of getting me to the page, but then I've been put off. Whereas if I got there and you'd already raised 300 quid towards your £1,000 target, you're on your way, I'm going to support you getting further, and it looks like you're going to reach the target before the end of the time as well. With that in mind, there are a couple of things that you can do to really help you get to that 30% point. One is that there is the option to add an offline donation to an appeal as well. So at the bottom of every appeal page and every fundraiser page, there's a section that says offline donations, and at any time you can update that in your local giving account. So for example, if there's people giving you cash and checks alongside online donations, you can add that in so it's always reflected on your target bar. If you're doing the work, you want everything to be reflected in that target bar. We can only give match funding a gift aid to donations given directly through the page, but it means any offline donations can still contribute to the target. Other groups have, say if they've just done a fundraiser that's finished before they've signed up to local giving, they might add that as an offline donation. or say they're doing a £5 project and they've got £1,000 grant towards it, they might add that as an offline donation, and then instantly they're off that £0 mark before they start. Another good way to get off that £0 mark is to do something called a soft launch. So essentially, say you made your appeal page live on a Monday morning, you only then share the link with those closest to you. So say those who supported it before, staff, volunteers, those really close to the group, and say to them, no pressure at all. If you were planning on donating to our upcoming appeal, it'd be so helpful if you could do it in the first week, because next week I'm going to start to share it with the public. It'd be really encouraging for new donors if we're off the £0 mark before we started. And in that sense, then your closest network could help you raise the first 100 quid or so, say, of your target. And then when you come to say, then share it on social media, you're off that zero mark, and it's really encouraging. It's really good to be careful of your wording as well. The natural thing to say is, you know, if you donate to us, we'll go off and we'll do this because it's our work. Whereas actually, if you can really make it sound like it's the donor that's the hero, the donor making this happen, you know, because of you, vulnerable people and your local community are able to feel less isolated and more safe in their homes. You know, something like that is a much more powerful message that really makes it sound like the donor is making the difference here. Obviously, as you then go on, thanking donors is really important. The more you can make donors feel appreciated, the better. You know, if you can thank them in a timely manner, then that's absolutely great as well. This is one of the thank you templates that we include in the fundraising toolkit. Essentially, if you can just really make it clear what the donations have gone towards, and also you're able to thank donors that haven't shared their contact details with you as well. So long as the donor hasn't chosen to be anonymous, and you can still thank them through the local giving site, even though you don't have access to their contact details. This is then your last port of contact with them. And so in that sense, it's really worth trying to get them involved in something else where they can keep updated. So for example, always included in there, would you like to follow us on Facebook? Because if every donor followed you on Facebook, they're still going to be kept up to date there as well. In terms of thanking groups in fundraisers and donors, it's really easy to do. When you log into your account and you click message, this pops up. You can then save up to 3 thank you templates there. So you can have your perfect thank you for a donor, your perfect thank you for a monthly donor, your perfect thank you for your current appeal. And thank you people should be as quick as then clicking message, clicking the right thank you, clicking send. So it should just be click, 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 and you're done. They do receive an automatic thank you from us. No one's going to be worried that the money hasn't gone through, but it's just sending a personal thank you when you're able to as well, to show your appreciation. You can't actually add your first thank you template until you've had your first donation. So in that sense, I usually encourage groups to do a little £2 donation to themselves. They can see how quickly it comes through to their bank account then, and they can also have a practice at adding the thank yous as well. This is a group who are entirely volunteer-led. They had never done fundraising before. They never had support from individuals before, and the majority of them were over 80. And they kept 3 public parks going in Swansea, and they wanted to raise money for a wildflower garden in one of them. They, through their first appeal, then raised over £4,000, which they were absolutely chuffed with, because they'd never had support before, and that they also really weren't comfortable with social media. They had lots of people support them offline as well through checks and cash, but they wouldn't have had that support if they hadn't been doing the online appeal. So we usually encourage groups to use our general suggestions, but if they don't work, we're very happy to start with bespoke ideas, as we did for this group. So I probably met this group about 3 or 4 times around this particular appeal. And eventually, what we devised was that they would do really simple things, such as including flyers in the bags in their plant shop, putting banners around the park, approaching employers around the park whose employees might want to come and enjoy the garden on their lunch break. They also contacted the local councillor, who included it in an update, and he also paid for their printing costs as well. So traditional methods like that can still work really well. It is worth thinking ahead throughout the year of how you kind of see your fundraising going. It's definitely worth either planning out, right, okay, these are the different local giving match funds I'm definitely going to be putting time in. Even if you're super stretched for time, it's worth that. But there may also be other dates that you want to add in as well, such as your own anniversaries, your own awareness raising dates, different things that are relevant to your work. And then other groups would be doing things weekly, but it really doesn't matter. Whatever time you've got, you know, just make the most of the existing opportunities that you have. Other types of fundraising can also fit into this. So, for example, some groups say they had just done an appeal and they had support from 100 people from a local community. They then might cite that as evidence in a grant application to say, people really care about this happening. They've got behind it with their own donations. We're now looking for a grant to support the rest of the money that we need for this to be able to happen. Other groups have full on match funded grants. So, say they've applied for a grant of £1,000 and said that they'll match fund this through online donations as well. Corporates as well, it's really worth bearing in mind whether there are businesses that could do, say, staff fundraisers for you or help you unlock your match funding or even sign up to direct debits as well. This is a group who were very uncomfortable with the idea of asking for money from individuals. And so it was very much having the £200 match funding that made them feel that they were able to start off in the first place. It gave them the confidence that they had an excuse to get in touch with people. In their first month, then, they raised over £1,000 from 50 people who just wouldn't have supported them if they hadn't asked in the first place. And instantly, then, their confidence is up. The rest of the staff and trustees can see it's worthwhile. And they divided it up in a really healthy way. They wanted all their staff to have training. One person took on the thank yous, one person took on the social media, etc. And it wasn't a burden for anyone. They also fundraised through existing events. So things like they had a community cafe. People would often come in for free events there. And they said to them, if you'd like to give a voluntary contribution towards, say, the afternoon tea, then we've got a volunteer at the back of the room with a tablet or a laptop, and they can help you just sit down and make a donation there as well. You can find similar groups to yourselves on Local Giving, so you can put in certain keywords there and see how groups have worded things on their pages or what they're up to. We also have a YouTube channel with lots of other tutorials on it. The link is there. It is in the same playlist as this recording is listed in, but have a good look. For example, say it was a little while until you got around to doing an appeal and you needed a reminder, there are little tutorials there, or obviously you could listen back to this whole training session again as well. In terms of starting off with online fundraising, it's, your first action is always to create a really strong donation page and start promoting that link. If you can then have a couple of key steps in place, such as donation buttons that link to that, thank you messages that are ready to go, you've done all the fundamentals then. And it's just a case of thinking, what would you like to fundraise for first? Would you like to create an appeal? Is there something to raise money for? Would you like to encourage fundraisers? And just give everything a go. Make the most of the training and the match funding and the toolkit that we're offering you as well. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch. My contact details are on the bottom left there, or you can get in touch with the general Local Giving help desk as well through that. If you'd like to sign up straight away, then that is the link there, join.localgiving.org/Wales. Eventually you'll reach a payment section and you can enter the promo code WALES100 there to bypass that as well. Essentially, it's a risk-free opportunity. It's the best time you'll have to be able to consider online fundraising. It's really healthy to have a range of income that's supporting your group's work. And so this is a really easy way of giving it a go. We ourselves are a not-for-profit, so everything Local Giving does is aimed at making it as easy and helpful as possible for groups to be sustainable in this way. So please do let me know if you've got any questions, and I hope this has been helpful. Thank you.